Shabbat Shalom. This is the first week in the Hebrew month of Nisan, which tells us that Passover, is right around the corner. So I decided, because we are beginning the book of Vayikra, which is Leviticus, in Torah, and Leviticus is all about the really boring laws that the priests performed in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. I thought this was a perfect evening to, instead of reading Torah and reading all about, making small animal sacrifices, we could have a discussion, we could have a time of understanding why we pray, what we pray, and to enter into the idea of there are Jewish people that don't believe in God or have a hard time believing in God, and I wanted to make the space for us to have that here at our congregation, to just be together as community and feel the presence of our fellows and take comfort from that. Many years ago, when I got ordained as a rabbi, my first job out of rabbinical school was at a humanist congregation where their liturgy did not reflect a belief in God. And when it was time for me to leave and go find my next job, I applied for the assistant rabbi position here at the congregation. And the story goes that Rabbi Bob saw my resume and he rejected my application. But he didn't reject it outright. He didn't make it final. He didn't send me an email and say, "We're rejecting you." Hold on one second. Come on in. So glad you're here. I'm telling a fabulous story. It's about me. It's a crowd pleaser. So we're just glad you're here. I'm contextualizing our service tonight because it's not our normal traditional Jewish liturgy. And I will be explaining a little bit more about why we are doing this particular service and what it means. But back to my story. So there I was. I had applied to be the assistant rabbi here at the congregation, and Rabbi Bob rejected my application. Why? Because on the application, it said that I worked at this humanist congregation. So Rabbi Bob called his friend, who was also on my application. It was also on my resume because I had one toe in the door of a Reform congregation where I was the soloist and the music person at the Reform congregation. And Rabbi Bob said, "I'm really sorry, Sanford, I can't hire her because she's a humanist rabbi." And Sanford said, "Rabbi Bob, just because she kissed a man doesn't make her heterosexual." And so then I got the interview, and the rest, they say, is history. All right, so on that note, we're going to begin our service with the singing of Hine Matov. Hine Matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. 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 How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. How good it is,
how good it is,
how sweet it is,
how sweet it is
to be together on this day. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim sheverachim gam yachad. Let's take a moment to breathe in the peace, the love, and the joy of Shabbat. Let's take a moment to breathe and be in the space together. As Shabbat approaches, the evening beckons us, inviting us to slow the pulse of our daily activities, to consider a different pace. It is at this time, at the end of our hectic week, that we create a silent space, a place to deepen our awareness of the passage of time. We pause to renew our vision, to refresh our spirit, to embrace the wonders of life. Let's read together. As Shabbat approaches, we dare to dream. The dusk softens the stark light of reality, which often looks harsh, uncompromising, unbending. The night can intensify our imagination, encourage. May we use this time, this Shabbat, to renew our confidence. Let us look not only at the fragility of our lives, at our trials and disappointments. Let us emphasize the strength of our lives, the successes, the many pleasures that make up the fabric of our lives. Shabbat reminds us of the passage of time, encouraging us to use our time wisely, giving meaning to our lives. Shabbat reminds us of the beauty in life, allowing us to reflect upon the joys, the treasured moments in our days. Shabbat reminds us of the values of our Jewish heritage, prompting to use this time, as did our ancestors, to consider what gives value to our lives. It is my pleasure to invite forward at this time Rachel Wood to sanctify our Shabbat candles.
Night seeps up from the ground like falls from the stars, distant, icy, ancient beyond all who came before. But the light of the Sabbath is warm. The light of the Sabbath is ours. The light of the Sabbath is of this time, of this place, of lives that know the past only in a dream. As we kindle these lights,
we create a place of warmth.
As we kindle these lights,
we welcome time for reflection.
As we kindle these lights,
we stake our claim.
And while these lights burn, the time is ours. Baruch ha'or ba'olam.
Blessed is the light within the world.
Baruch ha'or ba'adam. Blessed is the light within each person. Baruch ha'or ba'Shabbat. Blessed is the light of Shabbat.
Shabbat shalom. We continue with Ma Yafeh Hayom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. It is my pleasure to invite forward to lead us in the reading on the top of page 3, Eric Ozer.
Let the Sabbath be. Let the Sabbath be a time for believing in what could be and seeing with new eyes. In this serious world, let us take ourselves less seriously. In these harsh times, let us listen for a soothing word. While the world around us unfolds in an instant, let us judge each other with a little more slowly. Let the Sabbath shine a light into the corner of ourselves where hope is renewed. Let us remember a reason to be joyful and a way to be gentle. Amen.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand I awake? Am I prepared? Yalla lie, lie, lie. 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 Let's take another moment to be fully present with ourselves, to be here now. This past week, I had the experience of some great fear. I had this premonition that I was going to get on the highway and something bad was going to happen to me. And I said to myself, if this were the last time I was going to be walking on this earth, what would I want to remember? And the walk that I took from the building to the car, I was very present, very mindful of each step of what dusk looked like. If this were my last night, would I remember it, and would it be holy and special to me? Let's take a moment to be here and breathe. Let's take an inhale in, hold the breath, and exhale. These words from a distant time express the Sabbath's inner meaning. When creation rests and existence is sure, when chaos is ordered and being is securely launched upon its voyage, then Shabbat is born. Through the centuries, Israel has given itself to Shabbat, seeing it as the climax of life, even as it was the climax of creation. The Sabbath blessed the people and received in return the grateful responses of their changing lives. The periods changed the people, and the people changed the Sabbath. In periods of darkness, the Sabbath glowed with a promise of the light of the Messianic era. To those in torment, the Sabbath brought its healing power of peace. In times of freedom, the Sabbath was brilliant with reason and knowledge. The centuries, the people, the Sabbath continues to change. People belong to their time, and the Sabbath belongs to the people. It's interesting because people don't realize that the CCAR, the Reform rabbis back in the 70s, put a humanist service in the middle of Gates of Prayer. It's service number 6. The Hebrew still reflects an understanding. The liturgy is still with God, but the English has no mention of God. And so this reading, this meditation that we just read, comes from this Gates of Prayer that the CCAR put out in the 70s. It is my pleasure to invite forward to the Bema at this time, Len Gazinski.
To this place we come to lengthen our perspective. To this place we come to question and to explore. In this place we awaken our imaginations. In this place we draw strength as we allow ourselves to dream. Together we share the challenges of an ever-changing world, a world often beyond our control, incomprehensible and frightening. Together we seek to find meaning, ease our fears, understand our purpose. Together we share the burden and the blessing of responsibility. Today we join together in safety of community as we reflect on our Jewish heritage. Today we join together in the bond of community as we celebrate this moment.
Yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. Lo yisa goy el goy cherev, lo yilmedu od milchama. הגוי אל גוי חרב, לא ילמדו עוד מלחמה. Want to do one more? We certainly can. All right, we'll just read. It is up to each one of us to be informed and to consider carefully. But ideas are inert if they are not infused with life through the acts of love and kindness. To know where we stand is crucial. To act is to be counted. It is my pleasure to invite forward to lead us in our next reading, Marie.
I believe that we have the power to make tomorrow different from today. I believe that poverty need not be permanent and people not learn war forever. I believe in people despite the misery and suffering we sustain. I believe that there can yet be a time of peace and a time of justice. A time of unity for all who live on earth. The world may smile at my dreams.
And at this time, I invite forward Ben Lambert.
These are the walls we share. These are the words we speak. Lend our voices to one another. With breath and pitch, we build a greater sound. Our thoughts, unique and incomplete, join a river of words. Word upon word, careful and precise, some carve a place to land, some launch a solo flight. Words and rhythms, silence and song, one's resolve is another's rage, one's reflection, another's prayer. Touching the fingers of hope, treading the edges of fear, testing the boundaries of belief. These are the walls we share. These are the words we speak.
Let us take another moment to bring ourselves back to this moment. There's a story of a reporter who went to visit a tribe in Africa who had been untouched by modern technology. And the reporter asked if he could spend some time with the tribe, and the chief, the tribesman said, "You may, but no technology, no cameras." So the first day that the reporter was there, they went on a journey. And they walked for about an hour, and then the chief sat down and everybody in the tribe sat down. After 15, 20 minutes, the chief stood up, everybody else stood up, and they continued their journey. And as they walked, they would take time to sit back down and rest and be present. Finally, when they got to their destination, the reporter was so curious. He said to the tribesman, to the chief, "Why did you keep stopping after every hour and you'd rest for 20 minutes? And the chief looked at him like he was a little cuckoo and said, "We had to let our souls catch up with our bodies." We move so quickly in today's world that oftentimes we forget to let our souls catch up. So let us take a moment to rest and be peaceful and let our souls catch up. It is my pleasure to invite forward for our next reading, Janice Abelman.
May I discover. May I discover the ability to feel the pain of others, work for others, among others, and there come to feel a part of that to which I belong. May I discover the ability to be alone, so that I can go out of doors each day, among the flowers and trees, among the birds and all that live, beneath the sky of stars and planets, and there come to feel a part of that to which I belong. May I discover the ability to sit in silence, so that I may hear not the voice of others, but my own voice, the beat of my heart, the sound of my breath, the utterance of my soul, and here come to feel a part of that to which I belong.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our
Shelter from life's storms.
Hashkivenu, Shomreinu, Hashkivenu, Leshalom, Lahamidenu, Shomreinu Lachayim, Ufros Aleinu, Sukkot Shlomecha. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
That was kind of a fail. Can we try that again from Ufros Aleinu?
Yep.
Okay, good.
2, ready, and
Ufros Aleinu, Sukkot Shlomecha,
let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms.
Yeah, I didn't want to let that moment escape. I really wanted to hit that note. Let's take another moment to feel the peace and the joy. Each of us comes into the sanctuary with a different need. Tonight we are here together, enjoying the camaraderie and the peace of community, and to feel the breath as it flows in and out of our bodies, and to again wake up to the full presence of our being. It is my pleasure to invite forward to lead us in our next reading, Michael Stoller.
You'll never come to a Shabbat service where the rabbi says, let's do a do-over. But I don't like that. Listen to the silence. Our lives are confused by clutter. Interruptions abound, buffeting us about, betraying the silence, slicing into our sense of self. Listen to the silence. Shabbat provides a wall against intrusions, yet we must, week by week, construct that wall for ourselves. Shabbat provides the opportunity to change our pace, to find inner peace. Listen to the silence. Shabbat provides the opportunity to discover playful connections with others, to recover our harmony with a force greater than our own, to uncover our oneness with the universe. Listen, listen, listen. Tempting, tantalizing with his continual presence, Shabbat reappears to our cycle of life, offering the possibilities we can only imagine. Yet noise overpowers our ability to hear. Busyness overwhelms our search for calm. We struggle with the demands of our daily lives, losing our power to find serenity, a serenity that is offered to us through our heritage, through the wisdom of our ancestors, ordained a day of rest. We must, for a time, close our eyes to the ever-growing list of things we must do in order to see the beauty which surrounds us. We must, for a moment, listen to the silence within ourselves that allows us to hear the sounds of the universe. White clouds circling above, songs, birds flying through the air, smiles of friendship reaching outward, freely giving, laughter of children finding joy in play. Shabbat offers us the opportunity. It reminds us that life offers beauty and joy. Life offers gifts of music, of art, of nature. In the silence of Shabbat, we touch the treasures of friendship and love. It is ours to savor. It is our choice to make.
We take a moment now to pause and think about those of our communities and our families who are ill and in need of healing. So we want to think this evening of those who need healing, and we want to honor them by mentioning their names. We send healing and peace of body and soul to Rabbi Bruce Goldwasser, Melissa Bowman, John Eulenberg, Jacob Weston, Arnold Zahn, Frederick Bryan, Marge Lowy, and Carl Horn. We also pray for those whom we know not by name, and we ask that they be restored to health and vigor, and that they be given health of body, mind, and spirit, and comforted during their time of illness. And we take a moment for silent reflection. For centuries, Jewish people have tried to understand God and the relationship of God and the world. So great Jewish thinkers such as Philo, Maimonides, Spinoza, and even Mordechai Kaplan have grappled with these questions, which invites us to grapple as well. Obviously, the God concept that we find in our Torah is different than the concept of God that we find in the book of prophets. And we don't even find the mention of God's name in the book of Esther. But for each person, they get to define their own concept of God and how they relate that concept to the world. Many Jewish thinkers have suggested differing ways of how God interacts and participates or does not interact and participate in the affairs of the world. And even in our more modern understanding, feminist theologians seek to reconcile traditional male interpretations of God and modern feminist thought. So there's always been, and there continues to be, great diversity in the understanding of God. But here's what's really cool. No one has to accept a predefined concept of God in order to be Jewish. Every Jewish person has always had the right to understand the term as he or she determines. And this is evidenced by the fact of the classic definition for a Jewish person. Does anybody know what the classic definition is of a Jewish person? I think you just said it. If your mother is Jewish, right? If you're born of a Jewish mother, or if you convert under traditional Jewish law, you're Jewish. It does not mention belief. And it's clear from these definitions, being born of a Jewish mother or converting, according to Jewish law, that belief is not the primary factor in determining who is or who isn't Jewish. So a Jew can accept any theological stance and still be considered Jewish. And this idea was kind of the basis of someone who, for his time, was quite heretical, and his name was Baruch Spinoza. In his philosophical writings, Spinoza claimed that the soul was not immortal, and that God is not transcendent as understood by Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and that the Torah and oral law, which the oral law later became the Talmud, that was not given by God, nor is it binding on the Jewish people. It's pretty heretical for his time. And because he held these views and he disseminated them through his writing, Spinoza was given the highest ban, or, if you will, he was canceled by his Sephardic Jewish community. He underwent something called cherem, which is ostracism or banning in this Amsterdam's Portuguese Jewish community. Anybody who was caught interacting with Baruch Spinoza would suffer that same fate of being canceled or banned or ostracized, if you will. He was simply cast out of the community. But thankfully, Baruch Spinoza had already made some inroads with local Christians, and his Christian philosophical contemporaries took him in. He changed his name to Benedict Spinoza, and they supported him. And while he did his little side hustle of glass polishing, he wrote his philosophical treatises, which today are actually the basis for modern philosophical thought. Basically, Spinoza showed that if the Torah was actually written by the hand of Moses and was the word of God, how did Moses, if he had died in Ha'azinu, how did he write the last chapter of the Torah? So we have the Zot HaBracha, where it talks about Moses, but Moses supposedly wrote all of that. Did he write posthumously, or did he pre-write it? Listen, we're not going to sit here and try to answer the question because it's been debated by modern scholars and rabbis. Spinoza was just really the first to point out the discrepancy in this old belief that God was transcendent and omnipotent. And the good news is that not believing in God, or even in grappling with the understanding of God, doesn't diminish us as Jews and doesn't diminish our belief in God. So there were times that I was skeptical if God really existed, but I still prayed, and I would just say, I'm praying to a God I don't believe in. I believe in God today, G-O-D, as good, orderly direction. But of course, I test out my good, orderly direction that I receive from God with someone to see if my thinking is sound. I don't just act on my connection with God. Others have a concept of God that God doesn't intervene nor manipulate in the affairs of the world. So such a God doesn't hand down or dictate or decree, and God doesn't regulate or even direct the actions of human beings. Neither would this God act in a way that would contradict or be inconsistent with the laws of nature and scientific truth. Traditional prayer, which we did not engage in tonight, presupposes a God who intervenes and manipulates the affairs of the world, and it's contradictory to this worldview that we were exploring tonight. So we didn't use our traditional services because I didn't want it to be incompatible with what we were going for tonight, which is why I didn't read the Misha Berach prayer, because I still read the names, but we weren't actively praying for God to intervene in their lives. We were honoring them and sending them peace. So I have a story about a time in my life where I was very angry with God, very angry, and I'm loath to tell you the story, but I'm going to, because if Mike said I can, have a do-over, I can tell you the story. I was very angry with God. I had lost a job that I loved, and it was kind of the end. I knew my career was ending, and I really didn't want to lose my songwriting. I was angry. And I still wanted to pray to God, but I was angry at God. So my best prayer to God every morning was to give God the finger, because I was angry, and that was my best that I can do. And I felt that God was just patting me on the back, saying to me, that's okay, kid, keep coming back. At least even that gesture means you're paying attention to me on some level. And I felt that God forgave me. But the problem was that then I became a rabbi. So you have to be very careful. If you get angry at God and give God the finger, God might make you a rabbi. So to honor the struggle that I have about, does God exist? Does God forgive me? Will I get zapped in the patooties if I pray in inappropriate ways? I like to have this humanist service because I honor and recognize that traditional Jewish prayer, of course, is not essential for declaring one's membership with the Jewish people, but it just creates space for us to say, wow, that was really cool, or no, that didn't work for me. But let's make a space for those who grapple with God to come and consider that there might be another way of thinking this God concept. Because at our congregation, nobody is based upon their theological system. We can discuss, we can examine our God concepts, we can explore them with an open and inquiring minds. And some people find this to be uncomfortable, but there's really no issue that's too sacred to be discussed, because our goal is to enable people to struggle and search for an understanding of their own God concept while they're still affirming their Jewish identities. So I wanted to take a moment to open up the floor and invite anyone to raise your hand, and I'll bring you the microphone, and you can give us a short few minutes of how did you experience this service, and did it raise discomfort for you? Do you struggle with God, if you're comfortable sharing that? Anything you want, but we'll just take a moment to invite some comments. And then I'll refute them. Okay, just kidding. Does anybody want to go first? Anybody brave? Oh, excellent.
Hi there. Sorry. I am a guest. I'm here with one of my classes studying the Jewish faith. And I'm somebody who definitely has struggled with religion throughout my entire life. But I really do appreciate the concept that you guys promote. Being Jewish doesn't mean that you have to have certain beliefs. You can be whatever form of Jewish that you'd like to be. So that's just kind of what I've learned. And it's nice to know that even as somebody who isn't Jewish myself, that you could still have space to be spiritual and to believe in God.
Who else is next? Oh, excellent. Eric, and then Al.
My relationship with God changed over the summer. I started coming back to Etz Hayim after a long sabbatical from this particular organization. And I just, I needed some spirituality kind of on a regular basis in my life. So, I was welcomed with open arms and, whatnot when I came back here, which was really special. I also, looked at some other religions, especially like Hinduism and deities and things like that, for kind of another way of strength. They say like Ganesh is the god of wisdom and the remover of obstacles. And I noticed that a lot of things, are very beautiful artwork and whatnot with that particular religion. So I'm kind of like melding a whole bunch of spirituality and humanist, secularly, that's what I used to believe in pretty much. I mean, that, God is definitely somebody that you see as somebody who is individual to you. And with that, I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that kind of like enlightened you to, what goes through my head on a daily basis.
I was brought up Orthodox, in an Orthodox home, and as I grew up, I realized I was Jewish. I was brought up Jewish, but I never had a relationship with God, and it had no meaning in my life. When I was bar mitzvahed because my parents wanted me to get bar mitzvahed. I didn't really want to, but I respected them and I got bar mitzvahed. But bar mitzvah was sort of something I didn't want to go through, but they said all you need to do is go up to the Torah and have an aliyah in your bar mitzvah. And I thought you had to learn and read the Torah, study a Haftorah, but you didn't have to do that. So I took a quickie shortcut to getting bar mitzvah. So then I avoided going to temple, synagogue. It didn't have any meaning to me because I didn't know what they were saying in an Orthodox service. And then I got married, and they had something, a service called an Ufruf, which I didn't understand. And I was supposed to go into a temple, which I refused, the synagogue. And I relented, and I went. I still, to this day, don't understand what went on there, but I did that. And then I went to out-of-town school. I went from Brooklyn, New York, to Ames, Iowa, which was like going to a foreign country. And there really weren't any temples there or Jewish people that I knew of. And here's the mystical thing. This happened, I'm telling the truth. I was sitting and studying for my qualifiers when I first entered the school, and some stranger tapped me on the shoulder and asked me to come out. He wanted to speak to me. And he asked me if I wanted to go to services. And I said, "What church are you talking about?" And he says, "No, Jewish services." I says, "No, I'm not interested in Jewish services." He said, "Why?" I said, "I don't understand the Hebrew. I can read Hebrew, I don't understand it." So he said, "It's in English, it's Reformed." I said, "I never heard of that. There was no such thing as Reformed." And I went, and it was in someone's house, and it was nice being there, because all the people were Jewish, and they were reading things in English, and I knew some of the Jewish prayers. And I became very active in a layman congregation of 50 families on campus. And I spent 5 years in that congregation. So then I realized I was sort of a secular Jew. I believed in the traditions, and I joined a temple when I graduated, and I gave my children Jewish education. Then it was up to them to do what they wanted. Some of them went on, some of them went away from it and came back. But to me, I came to this sanctuary and to services on Friday nights, and bar mitzvahs and weddings and all that stuff. And the only thing meaningful to me was when I was reading the prayer book during a service, was the Hebrew, which I didn't understand, which I objected to in the beginning. I didn't like the English that was written in the prayer books. I didn't like the meaning of it, but I wanted to read the Hebrew that my ancestors read for centuries. So that's what was meaningful as a traditionalist. But I don't have a relationship with a deity. I really don't believe in a deity. I'm a secular Jew. I believe in the traditions of Judaism, and I'm in a club that everybody seems to hate in the world. But I'm a member. But more recently, I became very spiritual. And it's a different spirituality than what Judaism teaches, at least what I think they teach. I did a lot of reading. I read around 10 books on the soul. And I spoke to Rabbi Kaznowski about the Jewish belief of the soul. But I got very educated about the soul. And I believe in the existence of a soul. I think all of us has a soul. I think when we die, our soul goes into the spirit world. I don't believe in heaven and hell. I believe in the spirit world. I believe in reincarnation of the soul going into other beings. And that's where I drifted to. That's my current belief. I don't know if anyone else here looks at dying or the act of passing away as an act of transition. It's not, I don't look at it as a death. I look at people transition from this world to the spirit world. Their soul transitions. I don't know here. I'd be interested to see if anybody else has that kind of belief.
All right, who else want, oh, Monica, and then Janice. You'll take us home.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. My name is Monica, and I'd like to thank Andy for the beautiful service. It is so uplifting. It's so spiritual, and I love that she's stepping us up together, you know, from purely religious beliefs to something a little more universal. I have to confess that I'm a guest, that I am an ordained minister of Universal Life Church. And our mission is to unite people in spirituality, to bring people of different religious beliefs into that humanitarian spirit, because spirituality has tendency to unite. Religious sometimes divide if people don't understand each other properly. And I just like to say that nothing's coincidental. I haven't seen Andy, Rabbi Andy, pardon me, for a while. And tonight I was like, it's Friday, okay. Shabbat, holiday tomorrow. I haven't been at that time for a while. And I look up the service, and it says, you know, humanitarian service. And my heart just skipped a beat, and I'm so happy to be here. And ever since the beginning, I was raised in a country where there was no religion, no faith in God. I was raised atheist, on good moral values, but look at me today, ordained minister. So I know what Andy was saying. It is a process, and I think that opening our hearts, thank you so much, Rabbi Andy, for that. It's exactly the way to unite people and to bring us together. Thank you again.
I don't understand God any more than I can grasp eternity, infinity, the cosmos, the universe. I don't understand it. But I identify very strongly being Jewish, which of course is why I'm sitting here and have been for 15 years, although most of my adulthood I wasn't. When I was about 6 or 7, there was a TV show called Walter Cronkite's 20th Century. Yeah, it was black and white, and Walter Cronkite would teach us something about the world and old films. And one Sunday, it was on Sunday mornings, I think, it was about the Holocaust, and it showed the films from the camps. And I wanted to leave the room because I was 7, I was a kid, but my mother said, you watch this. And when it was over, she said, those are our people. And I don't know how much I grasped then, but as time went on, I grasped it very, very well, as we all do. Then around the time I was 12 or something like that, 2 movies almost changed my life, my Jewish life. Audrey Hepburn, The Nun's Story, I fell in love. The whole concept of what nuns were and how beautiful she was and what she did when she went to the Congo. And then I saw The King of Kings with Jeffrey Hunter, the most beautiful man in the world. Jesus, and I had never known that story, and there that was. So I wanted to be a Christian. I wanted to be in that with Audrey Hepburn and Jeffrey Hunter. Fortunately, I was also taken as a little kid to see the 10 Commandments downtown, where you had to dress up to go downtown. I was a kid, and it came out in 1957. And I saw that, and that was like, okay, Jeffrey Hunter, Audrey Hepburn, you have nothing on Charlton Heston. and our story, our story, and the other story, I learned about Christianity, just the way I learned about everything, but by reading. I couldn't do that, and so I didn't convert, but I'm still very influenced by the movies I've seen, and mainly by the documentaries and the reading I've done about our people. So I connect to it in terms of a peoplehood and of blood, although I know not all Jews are Jews by blood, they're Jews by choice, and that's great. So that's what I believe, but I don't worry about the God thing because I don't understand it. I'm not able to understand it. So I don't worry about it anymore.
There were more things that we could have shared and more people who could have shared them, but that's what we have the ONEG for, lots of yummy cookies. So let's take a moment after the service to enjoy the cookies and to share our ideas with God, because how much better than to have a humanist service where we're not mentioning God in our liturgy, but we've spoken for the last 15, 20 minutes about our grappling with God. So in the void, if you will, the space gets filled. We will continue with our anthem, which tonight is a treat because our wonderful music director, Jason Hill, will be singing for us. You can take out your sheet and sing along if you want.
If they want.
There you go.
Come and find the quiet center in the crowded life we lead. Find the room for hope to enter. Find the frame where we are freed. Clear the chaos and the clutter. Clear our eyes that we can see all the things that really matter. Be at peace and simply be. Silence is a friend who claims us, cools the heat and slows the pace. Bless the force that speaks and names us, knows our being, touches base, making space within our thinking, lifting shades to show the sun, raising courage when we're shrinking, finding space for faith begun. In this spirit, let us travel, open to each other's pain. Let the love that frees and ravel celebrate the space we gain. There's a place for deepest dreaming. There's a time for heart to care. In this spirit's lively scheming, there is always room to spare.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Karen Butterfield, and here are some short announcements. Thank you to our greeter, Rachel Wood. Thank you to Jason Hill for the lovely music. Beautiful. Thank you to the security team for providing security this evening. Don't forget, Andrew, where are you? And Monica. Don't forget to claim your seat at the second night Seder. Registrations need to be in as soon as possible. Andrew and Monica will be recruiting people at the ONEG, I'm sure. Join us for a special interfaith service next Wednesday, March 29th at 7 p.m. to honor the Transgender Day of Visibility. There will be no bagel brunch, tumbler, or religious school until Sunday, April 9th. Support our Jewish community by entering to win $5,000 and other cash prizes in our raffle. Check out the poster in the lobby, grab a form at the exit, or visit mycec.org raffle to learn more. Please join us after the service tonight for a wonderful oneg in the social hall. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
The cycle of life unfolds, and just as we rejoice in new life, we mourn its final ending, the inevitable death of those whose lives have touched ours. Tonight we join with others as we say aloud words which help us to recall those we have lost. We remember the moments we have shared, the laughter and the tears, the beauty and the pain. Inevitably, as our lives intertwined, as we have touched one another, we have been influenced, changed, enriched by their presence. And so, as we mourn their loss, we celebrate their lives. And thus our cycle continues, their lives forever marking the continued unfolding of our own. So we pause at this time to reflect upon those who are no longer among us. The moment of remembrance links life to life and generation to generation. Death cannot take that which is locked in our hearts. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. With our courage and our strength, we do not forget. Acts of kindness, deeds of courage, those will remain. Beauty created, wisdom shared is not lost. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. Zecher Sadik Livracha, may the memory of good people bless our days. And so we remember with love this Shabbat, Leo Eatman, uncle of Lauren Eatman, Abraham J. Flaxman, uncle of Paulette Weininger, Herschel Goldfarb, father of Fran Dvorkin, Bella Peshkin, mother-in-law of Francis Peshkin, Charlotte Shapiro, mother of Terry Shapiro, Percival Albert, father of Howard Albert, grandfather of Julia Albert, Arthur Friedman, grandfather of Stephen Kapp, Harriet Kaplan, grandmother of Gwen McCallion, Walter Mayer, father of Bruce Mayer, Sidney Mittler, father of Judith Whitkov, Ruth Rosen, aunt of Judith Stein, Clara Sack, mother of Eleanor Saliamanis, Susan Swanson, cousin of Cynthia Swanson, Shirley Sweeten, mother of Marcia Sweeten, grandmother of Naomi Fine, Dolores Ward, mother of Robert Gibson, Edith Rubel, mother of Carol Wolin, Martin Feist, father of Ellen Mandel, Adele Nadler, mother of Lila Warshawski, Sidney Gordon, grandfather of Judith Lerner, Carl Ulrich, father of Werner Ulrich, Millie Feinstein, wife of Alan Feinstein, Gertrude Wexler, grandmother of Linda Longman, Barry Haber, brother-in-law of Joyce Haber, Paul Wayne Johnson, father of Lisa Honig, David Karshin, father of Roberta Berman, Dariush Tavana, brother of Seema Tavana. We also remember with love John Sears and Julia House. Together we rise for Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 10, and we recite together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayei chon uv'yomei chon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agalal uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudasha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Please be seated.
Osei shalom. יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, אמן. עושה שלום, שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו amen.
May all of us be blessed with the light, with the joy, the comfort and warmth, and most of all the peace of Shabbat as we say together, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. We'll do a quick Kiddush and Motzi. Please join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. B'te'avon, everyone. Let's go have a nice cookie and talk about God. Shabbat Shalom.